Hey everybody, it's David from Red Wagon Dioramas. This video here is a kind of a video blog of my visit with John from Layered Creations down in the Houston, Texas area where he lives. I was down there in March for a work thing, and I was able to get away for a couple hours and tour John's collection room and kind of his workspace and see a bunch of his 3D prints and just talk through a whole bunch of his designs with him. John and I have interacted over the last 5 years or so through Facebook mostly, and I've bought a few of my prints and diorama pieces from him over the years, but this was the first time meeting in person. Went to his house, met his wife, his son. We went out to lunch at Whataburger. I've never been there before. That was fun. We actually did a little toy hunt too after lunch. I'll show some of the toy hunting video at the end of this too. Overall, it was a great time, great visit. I love meeting other collectors in the community, especially real creative guys like John. I've always been impressed with his prints over the years that I've seen them, and especially the Skiff. I love the Jabba Skiff. I did end up purchasing the Skiff from John a month or two after I visited with him because I love the thing, man. It was so cool. So I was able to display that at ChrisCon, and I have it now with my Black Series collection. But anyway, you're going to see in this video, you're going to see John working on his AT-AT, his AT-AT, little mini tank, but he's got like the head and half the gears and the treads printed by the time I was there. He's since finished that. You can see that on his page. You're going to see John showing off his huge playset that he made, which is kind of like a clamshell type Tatooine style, Jabba's Palace style playset for 6-inch figures. Kind of his design process and his thinking process of building that playset, which I know he's super proud of, and it was a really cool piece to see. We also touch on a couple other of his Star Wars vehicles like the A-Wing, Cantina Bar. There's a few other pieces in here I can't even remember now. There was so much that he showed me. So if you're a huge geek into 3D printing and Star Wars collecting, you're going to love this video. Of course, I need to plug John and his page in case you want to get some of his 3D printed files. He mainly works through Patreon now, is my understanding, so you can find him at the Patreon link. I'll put it in the description for the video. You can also see some of his work on Facebook and Instagram. Mostly he's selling his files for people to print. He doesn't do too much direct printing for customers anymore. I know there's a bunch of the guys in his Patreon group that are printing his files, so if you're looking for something to be printed, that's a good place to start. If you have any questions for myself or for John, leave them in the comments below. I'm sure he will respond as will I. And hit the like button for me if you enjoyed the video, and if you're new, please subscribe. All right, here we go.
And I'm actually going to take out, here you go, to mounting them.
Thanks.
But it's really expensive. So.
Yeah.
But
so
eventually I need to get
That's cool.
Get the console painted and actually so the lights kind of come out. I need to put something back here. It's a little plain, but it has a nice glow though when you put the lid on it.
Oh, I bet.
You can kind of sort of see that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Kind of reminds me of Knight Rider.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this whole thing, yeah, and then the turret up top.
Yeah.
Oh.
What you done? Playing with the Play-Doh? Yeah. So this is a chair I made a few years ago, and I put it up on eBay. And someone asked if this was real, like if it was like a life-size chair.
That's awesome.
So I was selling it for like $60, and I'm like, no, it's not.
$60. It must be a real one.
So this was something that I kind of designed as a kind of like a love letter to like the playsets we had when we were, when we were kids.
Yep.
I always enjoyed playsets like folded up, and especially the playsets that folded up into something that was like, that looked like what it should look like on the outside. But it's got a lot of features that I try to incorporate from like playsets from that era, and tried to make it look as interesting as I could. The initial design is very much like Tatooine, Mos Eisley, Jabba the Hutt's palace type of feel. There is like a little peg hole here, so if I ever want to do a like a little like eyeball droid that like pops out,
yep,
I could make one and pop it in there. Also try to be as in scale with this as I could.
Yeah, so that's a 6-inch Black Series.
If you want to be smart about it, I guess doing a 3.75 would be a little bit more economical. This piece was printed in a ton of parts. You can see the seam lines.
The seams are not jumping out to my eye, and this is the first
cool.
time I'm seeing it in person. But like, what's jumping out is the texture.
Cracks, yeah.
I really like that. All the texture. I think that probably helps blend
Yeah,
the
so
seams away.
a lot of that texture, like the cracking and stuff, that was sculpted in digitally. A lot of this was paint work. And
Really?
so I was doing, you know, the granite stone textured paint
Yeah.
that you can buy that's like lasts for like 2 seconds. So I was actually painting this pretty heavily. You can kind of see a little more right there. And I would go in and like really heavily just go over areas, and because I wanted it to look like it was made out of stone or sandstone or something. There was a lot of times where I was doing like filler primers and, you know, clamping and gluing, but the stone work, the stone paint, I think actually was the best. You know, the base is like an orange, but then it's also, there's some gold highlighting in the body. I mean, there's obviously gold here, but I did gold. There's some blues, greens. This was me trying to mask. I think it looks okay on the front. The backside is awful. It is really not good.
The tape.
But you know what? I don't care. It's whatever. But I like the color. I like the blue. I think that's a nice pop. The gold is a nice pop, because again, that's supposed to be like a palace or something. So I think that kind of works as well. And then one of the things that kind of kept sticking out to me when I was designing this was I knew I was going to have to use a threaded rod when I was making the hinge. That's a big, chunky threaded rod right there, and I'm using screws to hold all this together. But I needed something for like the top, because I didn't want just like a piece of threaded rod just sticking out.
Right.
So I made this little piece as like a little watchtower, and so that just kind of fits. And a figure can sit right there. Maybe Alf is chilling out like up here.
There you go.
So he hangs out.
But that's cool. That's a good point about design. You know, trying to, you know, you need this heavy duty hinge, and how do you incorporate that into the design? So when you print something that has to take stress like that, is that just a more solid, heavier print? I mean, I don't know much about 3D printing, but
yeah, I went a lot heavier with those pieces. And then I tried to go overly redundant with these hinge pieces right here.
Yeah.
And just to try to make it as heavy as I could. I mean, it's basically, if you look at it from the top, it's like 3 eggshells like laid next to each other with a big one in the middle. So here's the big reveal. And of course Bubo is gonna fall. And so this thing can open almost 180 degrees. I can turn on the lights. So I just strung some lights I got from Walmart.
Yep. You got Jabba down there in the bottom, Moloch. The Cantina Bar in the middle, that's awesome.
Yeah, the Cantina Bar was something I really wanted to have in here. And I ended up creating this floating hinge. These 2 back pieces that are glued into the walls, so they're static. Then there's 2 joints, one here, and then 2 more here and here.
So as you close the main shell, it basically, they will pivot there and the cantina will stay in the middle, right? And
yeah. So the idea is that I can take this out pretty easily and replace it with something else. So if I want to do like a bigger bar like that one over there, I could swap them in and put this in. And it's pretty strong. Like, it doesn't droop at all.
The rounded walls and everything do really lend it, you know, to that Star Wars feel. Yeah.
G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, He-Man, they always do like jail cells. Right. Everyone's got a jail cell, but then to lead into the jail cell, you got to have a trapdoor. Right. So I figured I needed to have a trapdoor, and so right here I have a little hinge that unlocks this trapdoor. So then I can push that in, and that drops, and someone could fall in, and now they're in the jail cell. And then this jail cell,
you got a sliding door. That's cool.
Yep. Which the design for this is coming directly off of Rogue One, which that's coming directly off of the Rancor pit door from Return of the Jedi. There's supposed to be a torture table here. I haven't gotten around to finishing it, so I just stuck my Falcon thing in there. Then my armory, which you saw downstairs, actually would go right in here. So the idea is you have the party downstairs, the business on the second floor.
And then a gun turret up top.
So I got a little gun turret, which that gun turret does actually.
Oh, it plugs in there.
It plugs into here.
Yep. Nice.
So that actually fits, and you can rotate that around. Or if you want to move it, you can put it in the base.
Yeah.
And then put that wherever you want. We got little watchtowers. So there's a doorway right here. And then little Jabba sail barge-esque windows that open up. And then the railing is based off of the skiff.
Yeah.
Or the sail barge and the skiff.
Does this floor slide on top of that one? It's a little slightly higher up, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Initially, this was actually a full circle. So like these two pieces, so like this would actually be over here. But I came into an issue with this being like a little bit too thin. So there was going to be like a full disc here, and then they slid on top of each other. But I didn't like how floppy it was getting, so I just went in and decided to cut it in half, and then they just form a...
And why did you decide to do a cutout on the floor
Good
here?
question.
Were you going to put a feature in
Well,
there?
Everyone needs a ladder, right? That's another 80s feature. Everything has to have a ladder.
Yeah.
So my son, this used to have hooks on the ladder, so we could hook in. My son, who plays with this pretty profusely, those got broken off at some point. Yeah. But you see the idea?
Yeah.
Is that you could get up there, or you could get it, up to there. And then, of course, with the little extra watchtower, now that it's open, he's actually inside.
Yeah, it's a playable feature right there.
I do have a Jabba's throne that's actually designed to fit in here, but I just really like this one too much.
I love that you designed did the Black Series scale.
Yeah,
Kenner vintage one.
These are the little gargoyle bits, and actually I think this is like one of the first Star Wars toys I remember having as a kid. And so like that flips open, that flips open.
Look at the interior.
And evidently there's a gun in there.
And that's where you find your missing weapons.
Yep. And it is big enough to fit a figure.
Wait, where'd you get these bones? Were these from Hasbro?
No.
I'm just kidding. The Rancor bones.
Nope. I wish. That will close down on top of him.
I never really understood the Kenner toy. I mean, it was supposed to be the Rancor pit, basically.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I interpreted it,
Well, I didn't understand that as a child, because when this came out, I mean, granted, I was born in '86, so like this was already out for a long time. But I thought that like this was literally his throne. I did not know there wasn't a grate under him.
Okay.
Because you don't really see that. Yeah. So I assumed that this is what he actually sat on. I don't understand this would be the Rancor pit. So I thought it was a form of torture that he put people underneath him and then like poop or fart on them or something.
Basically. Jabba torture.
Yeah, like
put him in the box.
Yeah, put him in the box, and then I'm going to eat some beans, and it's going to be gross.
That's great. I've never heard that before, John. That's funny.
I mean, that's what I thought when I was a child. So. Yeah,
it's a real nice sculpt job. Did you sculpt these? The heads?
Yep.
Yeah, that's nice.
Original gargoyles look nothing like this, and then I was like, screw it, I'll just make these.
Yeah. On my Black Series Jabba, I actually sculpted them out of just clay, out of Sculpey clay. They look pretty bad, but that's the difference between 3D print or 3D design and hand sculpting.
So I like it enough to where I'm just going to keep it in here, and it fits.
Yeah.
Inside of here, eventually, I have two little tabs, and so I could put something on the wall there. So if I wanted to do like a carbonite, I could put a carbonite piece. And of course, I don't know. I love this guy.
Did you sculpt him?
Yeah. Everything I sculpt. So everything.
So I don't have a Bubo in my collection.
I like Bubo.
I need to get one of these. This guy's cool.
I gave him a little sassy.
He's got kind of a snarl going on there.
But that's the set. It only took me like a year to finish.
A year to finish?
Yeah.
Wow.
There was a point where like I didn't have any of the interior. and my son could fit inside. He would have been getting close to 2, so he was able to crawl inside.
Crawl inside and hide.
Yeah.
So you do have the file available on your Patreon, right? If people
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to buy the file, they could, and they could print
Yeah.
this.
You can either get it through my Patreon or CG Trader, so either one. It includes pretty much everything here. Actually, well, minus Jabba's throne, but that is available on Patreon and CG Trader. Really interesting looking.
This is really cool. So you designed this one from scratch, right?
I was trying, yeah. So that's my model that I printed, but I was trying to go as close to the vintage one as I could in terms of like features and.
I love it.
All of that. Yeah, so it's got the little plank on there.
The plank, yeah.
Yeah. They're like, apparently that's what a passenger is supposed to ride on, but it seems very unsafe to me.
No, that's for Luke gets tossed into the Sarlacc pit. We all know that. And you do have a port here to plug in a sail if you wanted to print the sail.
I have the sail designed, and I have the beam and everything. I tried to go with vintage colors, because I believe the original one was that color green, and then it had black black fins and black guns, I think.
I don't know, this is pretty fun. I like this one a lot, John. This one's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just fun to look at. Like I like it.
Yeah.
So this is my Inquisitor's Tie Advanced. This actually was commissioned by a gentleman who ended up passing away before we could.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I hate that he never got to see this because he wanted this. And so anyway, I went ahead and printed one out just because I was really happy with the model. And it seemed like a shame to like spend a lot of time on it and never do anything with it. So I went ahead and made it. As best as I can tell, I think this is probably more proper Black Series size than like what some of the First Order TIE Fighter would be. The ball itself is, I'm reusing that for my regular TIE Fighter that I just released on Patreon.
I saw that. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna but I end up redoing the wings or the arms on that one, and then eventually we're gonna do regular TIE Advanced and a Interceptor, which that's what everyone wants. That's the great one.
That is, yeah.
But this was one of the examples of like ships that I just didn't really care for, but I ended up loving towards the end. The only time we ever see this is in Rebels, I think.
Isn't it the Grand Inquisitor that flies it? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So you do have a full seat in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the kind of the controls.
And then the controls peg in. They're resin, so I kept them loose because like, I know eventually it might break, so I can just replace it. And then that fits.
Plenty of room in there.
Plenty of room. There you go.
Now, how did you do the hinge on this? Is that...
I'm really copying what toy designers are doing. So I'm doing, it's a printed piece.
It has two little like bumps on the side of it?
Yeah.
And just kind of friction fits in there and then...
Yep, and I have a little flex point right here, so I'll cut a little flex point. It's a little bouncy, but I feel like a magnet would.
Yeah.
Or maybe like a little clasp would do well. But yeah, it's got all sorts of detailing inside. This piece comes out.
Oh, there you go.
So if you need to get in, you can look at there.
Yeah, so you could do some paint work in there.
Yep.
Yep.
A little bit.
What about the wings, the hinged wings? How are those hinges? Is there a steel rod in there?
So I went to Home Depot.
Yep.
And I took the wing, and I basically went and just tried to fit everything I could into here.
Whatever they had for
Whatever they
steel
had, I
dowel
could find.
rod.
I thought I was going to use a threaded rod, and they didn't have a threaded rod that small.
Yeah.
So I found a steel dowel. And it was a little loose, but I just decided to go ahead and try it. And so the hinges are slightly offset, so it creates enough friction in here, so when I was pushing it through, I actually had it on the table with my mallet, and I was like slamming this thing, which my wife works from home, so I was annoying the crap out of her. And this is like my favorite part, because this hinge is so strong.
Let me try.
It's satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not loose at all.
No, not at all. Like that's a really big problem with 3D printed stuff, is that eventually that gets really loose. I mean, it's so strong. This thing sits on its own wingtips. Or you can
fold it down.
fold it in, and it's you know, again, it's Black Series size, but it's also a little swooshable. Because, you know, the Black Series TIE Fighter, that is not a swooshable toy. But this dude is like, you know, you can kind of do that.
Swooshable. That's a new word for me.
Really?
That's a word. Swooshable. I got it. Yeah.
There's no way
Make
that's
it
a new word for you.
swooshable.
Yeah, but it's a really fun piece. I enjoy it.
So the back, you've got basically one engine on the back of this one. Now, is this interpretive too, or did you have pretty good source material for this one?
I went off of Rebels, and I went off of the what was like the little kitty toy line. It very quickly
Mission
came
Fleet.
out.
Mission
Yeah.
Fleet. Yeah, Mission
They
Fleet.
came out with a ton of ships.
Yeah.
And they're not bad. Like, they're kind of fun. They're detail wise, they're pretty nice. They're a little proportioned weirdly.
I bought the Mission Fleet Luke X-wing. I haven't opened it up though, but I did.
I kind of like
picked up
them.
the X-wing.
This is part of an entire Mos Eisley Cantina playset, and so this guy is modular to the point that, like, if you want to make it a bigger bar or a smaller bar, you can do that. All of this comes apart.
It's just pegged together.
Yeah, it's just all just pegged. Let's see, come on. There we go. So then if you wanted to make it like a longer bar, then you can do that. And if you want to make it like a short bar, you can obviously do that too.
Yeah.
And then the top pieces. There we go. Those come apart. And so it's the same point, so you could actually just make it like really short or really long. And so these are tight for the reason that, you know, this is hanging off the top. And so
It's got to support its weight.
it's got to support its weight so it doesn't like
Yeah.
sag. But these are pretty simple pieces. I make them in a couple of parts. So you have the bar top. So if you wanted to print the bar top in resin so it looks a little nicer, you can do that and save some money by doing the sides. And these just like pinch on and fit on pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you have these little tabs. So these little simple friction
blocks,
fit tabs.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's better than having the tabs actually like print into here, because then the tabs are going to break.
Yeah.
So why not just, you know, have something that's going to...
Gives you a little bit more movement too when you're trying to fit them together. If they're independent pieces like
Yeah,
that.
I think so. These ended up being a little bit of a different design than... So this is not the same. This is the same file, sort of, but I ended up making the arch
Yeah, your radius
much
is
bigger.
tighter. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think this is closer to what it really would have been. And this gives me room for the middle bar to fit in the middle.
Oh, there you
and
go.
actually fit a character in there. Because before, there's... Like, I could put this here and it would look cool, but you couldn't fit anyone in there.
Yeah, often.
And then the holes up top are for lights. So if you want to drop
Okay.
lights through, you can do
Yeah.
that. So this one, I think I designed last year. There's more to it. I mean, because you could basically take two of these and like fit them together. But there's a walkway that actually goes out about here, so you could put it together if you wanted to. And this breaks down into a couple other pieces. Like this is one print. This piece is one print. This is one. This is one, and this is one. And then these two are just loose walls. If you wanted to, the piece actually has peg holes for bases.
What do you mean?
So, because, well, the whole thing's like suspended, right? Or
Yeah.
it's elevated in the air. So, the idea was that there's little base pegs I can put into here.
Oh.
And then it would sit up in the air.
You put it up on columns or basically on dowels.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could even do like clear acrylic or something. So
Yeah.
it was totally suspended, right?
Yep. And I like the sculpting work I did on the floor. I was trying to follow that pattern that they had in the movie. But you got that, and then you have like little consoles. I couldn't really see a lot of detail on the consoles, so I'm not sure. I'm sure there's buttons on them because it's Star Wars.
Right.
But it's prequels, so it could just very easily just be like a touchscreen. So I don't know, but I guess if someone was really good, they could probably like install shelf L brackets and like probably put this thing up on a wall somewhere.
Yeah, it's true.
That'd be kind of cool.
You could.
Millennium Falcon cockpit diorama. So I got like basically like 1/4 of the ship modeled, and so this piece goes on the front end of that. And so I actually went to remodel this a few different times to try to make it a little more accurate. One of the things is I wanted to make sure Chewbacca could actually fit in the damn chair. And I don't know if you noticed, but he's a little tall. So Chewbacca, they have sliding chairs.
Yeah.
And then if you want to take the chairs out, you can just like pop them out like that.
It's got a little
rail.
Yeah, just rides in the track like that. That's nice. And then the back two chairs are just swivels, right? Just, yeah.
The front is they want, and the cockpit has a ton of detail, and then it has like a little steering yokes on it as well. And then I've had people light these up as well, which looks really cool.
Yeah.
So I got a version of this that you can run LEDs into. So here's the nav chair.
But you do have detail on the walls, like you have paneling there.
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of paneling and stuff,
Yeah.
and so you can. I ended up designing this a little bit differently to make it easier to paint. So like the back panel is separate, and then you would glue that on.
What kind of glue do you use when you're gluing together your parts?
It depends. Super glue. I mean, just regular super glue. Loctite works really well. A lot of the big stuff ends up being JB Weld. I was using Gorilla Glue, but it foams up so badly that like it's good for filling in gaps, but like JB Weld, I feel like it doesn't get as slippery, and it kind of sort of like it doesn't shift as badly as like Gorilla Glue does. And then for the back plate, I ended up just taking the interior of the cockpit and just flipping it over, so I just have like a closed off back plate.
Yeah.
And then I do have a door plate that can fit in here as well.
Yeah. I looked at your 3D model of the 3/4 again. I was like, man, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I will never print that again. That thing took way too much time. I hope the guy who bought it actually put it together. Anyone who's had Star Wars should be able to recognize the stand design.
Well, it reminds me of the Micro Machines.
Yeah.
From
exactly.
in the 90s or whenever that was.
And so I've reused this a bunch of times. But yeah, it just fits in.
Cradles it right there.
Cradles it right there. I think it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun piece.
All right, so I'm holding the Millenium Falcon cockpit here for the first time in hand, and I'll just say it's awesome. Like everything is bigger in person than when you see it on Facebook or in pictures, or even the renders and everything. This is just really cool. Wow. I could see how lighting this up would just be amazing on the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark's photos of it lit up are really phenomenal. With that,
I love this, man. This is really cool.
It's one of my favorite pieces.
This is a great, and this could totally sit on a shelf.
Yeah. I've got one at work, and my students really like looking at it.
Wow. Yeah, very cool.
And it's funny though, because there's actually been improvements since this. So like the railing here actually tilts inward, and it's a little bit wider, so it's got like the correct number of
balusters.
Yeah. I just realized these are my old controls. My controls are completely different now. These are based off of the toy, whereas the controls for the actual film, I have a version with those. Yeah, I'd have to rebuild the whole thing because all of this is glued in. But then,
was that a storage compartment? Is that the...
I don't know really what this thing was in the film. I always thought it was like a bench.
Yeah.
But it's too short to be a bench. So I ended up remodeling this. It's basically just sits right on top of here, almost like a boat engine cover.
Okay.
So I guess maybe that's what it was intended to be, like an engine cover. But I ended up putting the detail on top too. So like this is like version 1.5 out of like, I'm probably somewhere around like 2.25 at this point, but it's an older version. But it's still fun. I mean, it's bigger than like the original was.
It's an older code, but it checks out.
Yeah, like I mean, for sitting on my shelf, like no one ever comes here. So, little plank here, which a little springy, and that actually can go on both sides.
Oh, nice.
I figured why.
I mean, which way you're setting it up?
Yeah, they can rotate, but I don't really know if there's any reason to.
Yeah.
Detail on the bottom you never see. So.
Right. What did you do in the base? What is the symbol there in the...
I mean, what do you think it is?
Is that Jabba's tattoo?
That is Jabba's tattoo.
Ah, all right. Cool.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what to do for the base, but...
It's very clever.
And it just pegs in at the bottom, and
yep.
I've never had this thing full, so I guess it works.
Did you have to, like, how would you know the center of mass and gravity and everything to do that? Did you just guess?
I just guessed.
You just guessed and it worked. Wow.
I think actually I made it wide enough to where it can't really come off, because I think I'm a little forward on my center of mass.
Yeah.
Because like clearly the fat
especially if you load it up
here,
with some figures,
yeah,
you know, might be
and
off
I've
balance.
had it loaded, but I've never had it actually fall.
That's funny how some of the dumb luck kind of factors in sometimes.
And that's my career, is just dumb luck.
That's great.
But it's a fun piece. I really enjoy it.
Boba Fett. Where?
I think they fit pretty well. Like I've gotten like a dozen figures on here. I mean, I figure as long as I can get Fett and a couple of goons.
Yeah, you get
Luke,
a couple.
Han, Chewie. I figure like I'm good.
I am pumped to be holding this in my hand. Honestly, John, I mean, I probably will get one of these from you, because this thing is just amazing in person. I could see it right on top of my IKEA shelf there with my my Rancor sitting there, and yeah, this is pretty cool. I like, you know, that it's a ship, but it's very like figure focused, right? You can put like you said, you can put 8 figures on here, I'm sure, you know, pretty easily. So you get a whole scene, very scene specific. One of my favorite scenes in my favorite movies, you know, when Luke obviously jumps off the plank and the music soars and the lightsaber comes flying in and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's Return of the Jedi is my favorite one by far.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Empire is great. They're both about the same, but I love, the kid in me loves Return of the Jedi.
See, I was 5 years old when Return of the Jedi came out, and so I got to see it in the theaters. The only one I remember seeing in the theaters, and it hit the sweet spot for me. And my favorite stuff from that movie has been Jabba, everything with Jabba. So there's a lot of guys out there like me, you know, same thing. So yeah, this is just an amazing piece. I've had my eye on this for, I don't know, 5 years since I started buying stuff from you, and just, you know, I think I'll have to pull the trigger soon. So.
But yeah, so this was Corey Freya, I believe. I'm pretty sure Corey was the one that wanted this. And I like the A-Wing. It's one of my favorite Rebel ships, and it's just so small and compact. I mean, it's kind of like between this and the B-Wing, which is like the opposite of the A-Wing.
The B-Wing is
such a huge,
odd and clunky. Yeah.
But like this thing is so small, so fast.
Yeah, it's got the nice aerodynamic look to it. It's got big guns, big engines.
Exactly.
It's got everything a cool spaceship should have.
So I was trying to like the paint job's terrible. I tried doing it. It does not work. I tried to do a lot of like little details and stuff that I saw that were like World War II inspired detailing, like little nuts and bolts
rivets
and,
and paneling and
yeah. So I was trying to put that in there, and then you have the canopy that opens up. So there's a hinge back here. There's a little chair. And controls. Very simple controls compared to what I'm doing now. The cockpit, I really like the fact that it even opens and it kind of like clips in. I do have a version where the glass is gone. So it just kind of, you can see into it. Which
there's no real option for printing translucent canopies, right? Is it?
Yes,
how do people do that?
There is. So if you do resin printing, you can do a clear resin print, a clear resin, and you have to kind of sand the hell out of it. Like you have to go up to like 10,000, 20,000 grit.
Yeah.
But it will come out like glass.
Huh.
It looks really, really nice. But as long as filament, this is way before my resin days.
Yeah.
The neat thing with the ship that I was trying to go for is this is my first attempt at doing like electronics. So there's no electronics in this one, but I was thinking about electronics. So on the bottom, I have a battery compartment, but the idea is that you can put a battery set, or one of those like little string lights or whatever you want to make, but there's channeling that goes to both engines, and then also the smaller engine sets here and here. And so you could plug in LEDs.
Okay.
And light this whole thing up if you were so desired.
It's all laid out. How's the landing gear work there in the middle?
So he sits on his wing struts.
Yeah.
But then these are very loose, but they just kind of come out
They swing forward like that.
And then they just kind of sit.
Yeah. Yep, I get it.
And then they sit like that.
Yeah.
The guns you see on the ones in the movies are a little bit smaller, but
yeah,
they just kind of fit in. They rotate up and down. So
Yeah,
6-inch figure. He looks like a child. He really does.
Yeah.
In some way, it kind of sort of works, but like, you know, he looks like a child. Technically, he fits.
Yeah.
But I would say.
So you could lose about like 2 inches of length on this easy and still fit a Black Series in there.
I think I took it down to like 80%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little bit too big. Because really, I mean, the A-Wing should be the smallest ship.
Right.
But yeah, so he fits. You know, he's like a 10-year-old boy sitting in a ship that he probably shouldn't be in.
Well, aren't we all?
Yep. So that's a fun piece.
Let's go toy hunting in Houston. What is this, Bedrock City, you said?
Bedrock City.
Yeah, Bedrock City Comics. All right, go check it out.
So this is their location for Bedrock.
Yeah, I got to see one of those in person recently. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, they're insane.
Here's your Alf.
Yeah. They have a lot of cool NECA stuff.
38. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Of course, looks like the one that Johnny has, I think.
Yeah, it's the same one, but it's just different.
A bunch of loose figures. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$10. Here's a Zuvio for you.
Yay.
$6.
That's about right. That's about what it's worth.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Raven's spawn.
Oh, yeah, look at that one. That's the one I repainted.
Jamesy. We can't take them out.
What is that R5D4 up top? Oh, that's the Disney Elite, the die-cast one.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish we still had the Disney stores because they had a
Oh,
bunch
I
of those
know.
in there.
Yeah, I missed our Disney stores all closed too.
I've been getting a lot of these because they're so cheap.
What's their pricing like on?
No one wants them. So.
Yeah. The store I was at this week in Boston had a ton of them too.
So these are about
$10. Yeah.
Which, I mean, with inflation, is actually cheaper than they would have been if they were, you know, priced today.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently they got the Sauron.
Oh, nice. What's their
Always
price?
wish I
$40
could
on
put that
Boba Fett.
together.
That's a great Build-A-Figure.
Yeah.
I have that one. Yeah.
Always. But like, I don't know. I've always thought that like they were going to eventually sell that as a toy by itself.
Yeah, like standalone.
Because they've done that with like other paths.
Yeah. Maybe they will. They might revisit it.
I assume they will.
Lots of betas.
They got some of the newer ones.
Doctor Strange. John Wick. Got that big red Hulk back there. Sabretooth. Look at that. That's cool. Scorpion. $40. Predator.
That old Predator.
Oh, no,
it's
that's NECA, right? Yeah.
It's NECA.
Sure. I got something. I'm ready.
Oh, that's a good find right there. Yeah.
I have a bunch of these chips,
Yeah.
but I never had the reader.
Really?
And this is $3. All right, so that was a little toy hunt with John and one of his local shops. Here's what I picked up. First of all, I got an Admiral Akbar Kenner figure. with the little staff he comes with. Actually, I haven't even opened this guy up yet. I got to open up and pose him on my shelf behind me. But I didn't have a complete Akbar with the staff, and I think he was, yeah, 20 bucks. So that was an okay price for him. Got him, and then I got the $3 Comlink reader. This was from the Phantom Menace figures when those came out. I never got the reader, so for $3, that was awesome. I have a whole bunch of the comm chips. Check it out. Got a whole bunch of them here on a chain. Probably a lot of you guys watching this played with these like 20 years ago, right? But for me, this is my first time.
The Council have granted me permission to train you. You will be a Jedi, I promise.
What else, Obi-Wan?
Do not defy the Council, Master, not again.
Good advice.
I have a bad feeling about this.
There we go. Classic. All right, guys, so those are my pickups down there. Fun to get the Comlink reader. Always good to get another Kenner figure. Again, check out Layered Creations on Instagram, Facebook, and especially his Patreon page if you're interested in getting some of those files that John was showing off in his studio. All right, again, if you enjoyed the video and you're still watching after all this, hit the like button for me. If you're new, please subscribe. And here's some more videos you can watch from my channel. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.